When we think of a midwife, we picture kind-hearted women, gentle, nurturing souls who guide mothers through the miracle of childbirth, helping bring new life into the world with love and care. But many years ago, one midwife chose a far darker path. Instead of delivering life, she dealt in death. She would become known as the Demon Midwife, the most prolific female serial killer in Japanese history. In the second half of the 1940s, after the end of World War II, Japan faced a serious population crisis. Within just 5 years, the country's population had exploded by 11 million. Yet most Japanese citizens couldn't even afford to feed themselves, let alone care for a child, especially one born out of wedlock or the result of brutal assaults by foreign soldiers. Today's video is about post-war Japan, and about a woman who took advantage of that chaos, a midwife who became a murderer, a serial killer with over 100 victims. Her name was Miyuki Ishikawa. Miyuki Ishikawa was born on February 5, 1897, in the rural village of Hanjo, located in Miyazaki Prefecture. Not much is known about her childhood, her family, or her upbringing. The first solid record of her life appears in 1914, when she was 17 years old and moved to Tokyo. 2 years later, on September 30th, 1919, she graduated from the University of Tokyo with a degree in midwifery. Around this time, she met a man named Takashi Ishikawa, whom she would soon marry. Takashi, 3 years older than Miyuki, had lived in Ibaraki Prefecture before moving to Tokyo. Though they came from different backgrounds and were both young, they began their life together. Before marrying Miyuki, Takashi served as an officer in the Kenpei, the military police of the Imperial Japanese Army. The Kenpei were infamous for their brutality. They acted as secret police, arrested or killed anyone suspected of anti-Japanese activities, and were known for suppressing dissent with violence. After the marriage, it's unclear what Takashi's job was, but most sources suggest they were financially stable. He didn't seem to work much, though, spending most of his time with Miyuki and even helping her with her midwifery work. The couple never had children of their own. Some sources claim Miyuki underwent surgery to remove her uterus, making pregnancy impossible. Others say the couple simply chose not to have children, though no clear reason was ever given. There are even a few articles suggesting they adopted 3 children or raised Takashi's son from a previous relationship. But the truth is uncertain, and most historians agree that Miyuki had no biological children. What is certain is that Miyuki was a skilled midwife. She was passionate about her job, worked tirelessly, and quickly gained a strong reputation. She eventually opened her own birthing clinic, and both patients and doctors alike respected her deeply. Her reputation grew so much that she was appointed director of the Kotobuki Maternity Hospital. And now we reach a critical turning point in history, the year 1945, specifically August 6th and 9th, the atomic bombings of Hiroshima and Nagasaki. The war ended soon after, but Japan was left devastated. Major cities were in ruins, the empire was gone, and the economy was non-existent. In 1945, Japan was in crisis. By 1946, it was reported that 10 million people were at risk of dying from starvation. There was no food, no stable shelter. Families survived off scraps and whatever little they could grow. People died in the streets. It was in this desperate world that Miyuki Ishikawa made her deadly decisions. Understanding this setting is crucial, because soon you'll see exactly who her victims were and why. From 1945 to the late 1940s, the early years after the war in Japan saw an incredibly high number of children born out of wedlock. Between 1945 and 1950, Japan's population increased by 11 million people. This surge in birth rates had various causes, such as post-war displacement, the lack of formal marriages, women turning to prostitution due to poverty, and shifting social norms. However, the primary reason behind the increase in births during this time was the widespread rapes of Japanese women. After the war, Japan was occupied by the Allied forces, mainly American troops. Many of these soldiers entered into relationships with Japanese women, most of which were forced and, according to historical accounts, amounted to rape. These relationships almost never led to marriage. The children born from these unions were often mixed race, and they were rejected by society. They faced insults and were not accepted in Japan society. The fathers refused to acknowledge these children, and mothers, who were first and foremost victims of rape, had no ability to raise their children. They abandoned their babies at hospitals. Thus, the maternity hospitals were filled with numerous abandoned children, children no one wanted to adopt. In the face of a dire economic crisis, no one had the means to feed these babies. Miyuki Ishikawa's hospital was also dealing with this crisis, and the number of abandoned babies increased every day. In April 1944, Miyuki came up with a solution to the hospital's problem. She thought to herself, if these children are going to experience nothing but poverty their entire lives, why should they live at all? They are doomed to a life of misery, so it's better they die as infants than suffer through a harsh life. From April 1944 onwards, whenever a mother came to the hospital for childbirth, if Miyuki saw that the mother was alone, poor and unable to raise the child, she personally decided that the baby would never have a chance at a happy life. She would tell the mother that if she didn't want the child, she could leave it at the hospital, where the staff would take care of the abandoned babies. The mothers, knowing they had no means to care for the child, often agreed as they didn't want the babies. What did Miyuki do to these children? She would place the babies in a room. They would cry for a while, but after some time, no sound would come from them. Ultimately, they would die due to neglect and possibly hunger. And honestly, the most heartbreaking part of Miyuki Ishikawa's case is here. Miyuki didn't kill the babies with her own hands to end their suffering, but rather she simply left them in a room to die. She didn't give them food, water, or attention. Her method of killing was abandonment. The most shocking part of this case is that the killings weren't a secret in the hospital. All the staff, including the midwives and even the doctors, knew what was happening. Some midwives quit their jobs and refused to continue working at the hospital, but many others kept working because they were dependent on their meager wages and needed to feed their families. Despite the horrific nature of the crimes, no one reported them to the police. No one said a word to the authorities. But did the police truly not know? The more tragic part of the story is that the police were fully aware. The birth rate at Miyuki's hospital was dramatically lower than at other maternity hospitals. And with such low birth rates, the police were certainly aware that something was happening to the newborns. But no investigation was ever initiated, and they allowed Miyuki Ishikawa to continue her baby killings. In a short period of time, Miyuki took the lives of many babies at the hospital. Once killing became a daily routine for her, she decided to make money off of this crime. With the help of her husband Takashi, she went to the homes of new parents and, as if promoting a business, offered to solve their problem for a small fee. Her advertising method was that raising a child was costly, and if they paid a little now, they wouldn't have to spend money raising the child in the future. Additionally, they placed ads in newspapers promoting their maternity hospital, encouraging more mothers to give birth at Miyuki's hospital. Miyuki's marketing strategy was highly successful, and she made a lot of money from parents who didn't want their children, especially single mothers. According to reports, Miyuki Ishikawa was able to earn between 900,000 to 1 million yen from this operation, and with the money, she bought an expensive and rare phone and a piece of land in Tokyo. She was also planning to buy a very expensive car. Miyuki and Takashi had essentially started a baby-killing business, and even a doctor was helping them. Dr. Shiro Nakayama was providing death certificates for the newborns to ensure the hospital's operations wouldn't run into any legal problems. According to these death certificates, all the babies died of natural causes, and many were even born dead, which was, of course, a lie. Their operation continued for several years until, on January 12, 1948, two police officers stumbled upon the remains of 5 babies in Tokyo. Had these two officers not found the remains by chance, Miyuki could have continued her crimes for many more years. The police sent all 5 remains to the coroner for an autopsy. The results showed that none of these 5 babies had died of natural causes. In fact, they had been murdered. While the police had known something was wrong with the birth rate at Miyuki's hospital, having 5 bodies meant they could no longer ignore the issue. The officers went to Miyuki Ishikawa's hospital and arrested her, her husband, and the doctor who was helping them. After the initial arrest, the police conducted a citywide search for the bodies and ultimately found the remains of 40 babies in a cemetery. They discovered the bodies of 30 more babies beneath a temple. They also managed to find 7 babies who were alive but dying within the hospital. Unfortunately, 2 of these babies passed away right there. No official number was ever released for the total victims of Miyuki because once they realized how many bodies there were and how more and more were being discovered, they stopped the search. In cases like this, especially those with a large number of victims, the police often just say the number of victims is high and stop trying to find each individual body. This was also the case here. Miyuki Ishikawa holds the highest number of victims among all serial killers in Japan, with the number of her victims estimated to be between 103 and 169 newborns. On January 15, 1948, Miyuki, her husband, and the doctor were summoned to court for trial. During the trial, Miyuki defended herself by saying that none of these deaths were her fault, and the real culprits were the families of the babies, who abandoned their children and even gave her money to get rid of them. Interestingly, most of the people in Japan accepted Miyuki's defense and agreed with her. They all believed that while Miyuki killed the babies, the real murderers were the families who willingly handed over their newborns to her. At that time in 1948, Japan had no laws regarding the rights of newborns. In other words, newborns had no rights, and the laws for adults or children did not apply to them. As a result, Miyuki Ishikawa only received an 8-year prison sentence for killing more than 100 babies. Just 8 years. And even this 8 years wasn't for murder. What was it for then? Back then, the people of Japan didn't focus much on the fact that Miyuki killed over 1,000 babies. What bothered them more was that this midwife took money from people to kill their babies. So the murder part of the case wasn't the focus, but the money she had extorted was. She received 8 years for the money theft, not for killing all those babies. Takashi Ishikawa and Shiro Nakayama were each sentenced to 4 years in prison. Nakayama, the doctor, served his full 4 years, but Miyuki and Takahashi managed to have their sentences reduced. Takahashi spent 2 years in prison, and Miyuki served 4 years. Miyuki Ishikawa was released from prison in 1952. That same year, a magazine interviewed her, and Miyuki stated in the interview that she was not responsible for the killings of the innocent newborns and that the real culprits were the parents of these children. This was the same defense she had presented 4 years earlier in court. We are not sure whether Miyuki's midwifery license was revoked after this incident, but after her release from prison, she never returned to midwifery. Instead, she started selling hand cream soap and fish. It is also said that she got involved in real estate. According to Miyuki, Takahashi died in 1952 for unknown reasons, and there is no further information about the doctor who helped them. No one knows exactly what happened to Miyuki afterward and how she continued her life. The police had her address for a while, but she suddenly disappeared and no one heard from her again. Some local people from the area believe that Miyuki Ishikawa passed away on May 30th, 1987, at the age of 90 due to old age. The case of Miyuki Ishikawa's serial baby killings had a significant impact on Japan. This case led the Japanese government to legalize abortion on June 24, 1949, due to economic issues, and Japan became one of the first countries to allow mothers to have abortions under specific circumstances. Thank you for staying with me through this video. If you haven't liked it yet, don't forget to hit the like button, and I'll see you in another video in another criminal case. Goodbye.